All right, so we're at Black Iron Gym / CrossFit Nerling in Sparks, Nevada, and we're doing a little bit of extra content on business because, because I'm not comfortable with how the video part of the podcast turned out. So we're just gonna throw some extras in there to make everybody happy.
Bonus
Footage. So, what I wanted to ask you about is when you were trying to start a gym in New York,
yeah.
And that from a business perspective was not the right way to go.
I would have been bankrupt.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Right.
That's not something that you want to do. So you decided to start Black Iron in Sparks.
Yeah.
Here. You took over a previously existing facility.
Right.
So what were the business challenges associated with that?
There were a lot. The previous owner had of this gym.
Yeah.
He was in this gym before. So it actually, we basically ended up just kind of buying the lease from him, and maybe half the membership and the equipment. And what we did was, so starting a business in Sparks is extremely difficult as far as the permitting and everything is concerned. So luckily by buying an existing business that had all the proper permitting and zoning for a
So
gym,
you didn't have to go through
we
all this
avoided
process.
that $20,000 worth of fees and permitting and all that.
Right.
So that really helped, but unfortunately we needed to fix some issues with existing members. But I mean, for the most part, it was basically we just came in, we painted, we added turf, and we added all new equipment. So I mean, it was relatively easy because since this already was a gym, we didn't have to do any construction. Opposed to the spot in New York that we had, we would have had to completely make it pass code with the city. We would have had to add bathrooms, the city of New York makes you have a certain air conditioning unit, a certain heating unit, all that stuff, and that would have cost me like $100,000.
And was that like a warehouse space or was it a...
In New York?
Yeah.
No, it was they had just gutted, I think it used to be a restaurant.
Okay.
And they gutted the upstairs and the basement. And so what it was 6,000 square feet. It was 1,500 feet upstairs, which we were going to make like storefront and it's kind of like a store and have caveman coffee bar and all that.
Yeah.
And then the downstairs was 4,500 square feet. So when I signed the lease for the place, when I ended up signing the lease, but luckily I got out of the lease, the spot wasn't finished. The space wasn't finished. So they hadn't put the flooring in or anything like that. And they basically told me that I was going to be responsible for the bathrooms and the AC units and all that. And so with this gym, we didn't have to do any of that, which was really nice.
It was already in place.
Right.
You know, we're in a sort of light industrial park here, right?
Yeah.
I know that a lot of small gyms, a lot of CrossFits and whatever, have sort of taken advantage of the fact that there was an economic downturn, and so there was all this inventory of this kind of space.
Right.
I wonder if there's ever going to be a day when smaller gyms kind of get priced out of these, and then where do they go?
Right. That I could definitely see that happening. I mean, I know now. So like, if you go look at any of the other CrossFit gyms in Reno. Are we the only gym that's like a true warehouse?
I don't think we're the only gym that's a true warehouse. I mean, I would characterize Paddleboard as perhaps a warehouse that's adjacent to a Sherwin-Williams Paint. It's more in a light industrial area. I would even characterize a CrossFit Initiative. That's more industrial commercial. But
they've got low ceilings and all that, though.
They have lower ceilings, but it's still very much it's across from IGT, so it's near the kind of the technology parks where a lot of the service sector employees, the people who do a lot of design work for local gaming technology companies, essentially.
Okay.
But yeah, ours is I would say the most warehousey. Adverbially speaking. Ours is a true warehouse location. We have on our sites, we have a granite, a company that specializes in granite surfaces, and then
next door,
adjacent we have another commercial enterprise. So it's fortunately for us though, it's not really heavily trafficked.
Right.
It's right off one of the main thoroughfares, one of the main arteries in Reno. So it's easy free access right next to McCarran. So it's kind of the best of both worlds because it affords all of that space. We have the high ceilings, we have the open floor plan, We have ample parking.
We have a parking lot.
But we don't have to contend with a lot of the other things. Like we don't have to contend with a lot of pedestrian or like, automobile or other vehicle traffic that is usually more indicative.
And you don't have like trucks in and out blocking things out and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean they're there on the street, but it's not just it's not like you're trying to run or navigate through a truck station and rest stop the entire time.
Right. So I know we talked about some membership targets when we recorded the podcast.
Yeah.
How are things going in that?
Good so far. I mean, we've been open for 4 weeks. It was 4 weeks yesterday, and we're above 80 members now, I think. Yeah, I think that's about right. With we don't even have a website. This has just been organically so far, through the grapevine. There was miscommunication as to how many members this gym exactly had when it was originally CrossFit Sparks Elite.
Okay.
A lot of people didn't want to stay with the rebranding because it's primarily, powerlifting, weightlifting gym.
Right.
So when this used to just be CrossFit. So obviously there was people who chose not to stay for whatever reason, which was fine. But what we offer here that no other gyms like this offer in Reno is like an open gym. So if you just want to come do your powerlifting programming and you don't give two shits about CrossFit, exactly. Or CrossFitters I know a lot of CrossFitters who don't particularly care to do CrossFit classes but still like to do CrossFit.
Right.
They can come here and do it during our open gym hours.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're not the first gym that I know of that was primarily branded as a CrossFit before, who is now branded primarily under another gym name, type name, and the CrossFit is sort of somewhat de-emphasized. Yeah. That was obviously a business decision.
I was particularly well known for bashing CrossFit for many years. I started off liking it back in 2010, 2011. And I started doing CrossFit, and then when I relocated to Southern California, the gym that I was a part of down there made fun of CrossFit, and I kind of fell into that. Primarily powerlifters there who just bashed CrossFit, and that went on for a couple of years, and I was that person for a long time that just bashed CrossFit, and I think, when I met Drew, I kind of found a new respect for it because I saw what a phenomenal coach Drew is, what a phenomenal coach Brian is, and I was exposed to the serious athletes involved in CrossFit and the good coaches and the good programming.
And all the abs you don't find in powerlifting.
Yeah. So I think, Drew made me at least lukewarm to it again, and I think over the past year I've really found a new respect for it.
I think that part of this sort of rebranding thing for some places is that CrossFit is now kind of become one mode of training among many.
Right.
Where before what was sort of an aggregation of a bunch of different training styles. Now it's sort of its own thing, and people are taking the components of it and emphasizing those more in their training. Right. And other people just tracked themselves into being just CrossFit athletes.
Right. And I think it's really taken off in powerlifting too, because when I'm not getting ready for a meet, I do CrossFit. I stay in shape, and CrossFit maintains my strength. My deadlift's gone up, my bench has gone up from all the shoulder to overhead work, and so Drew was talking about this yesterday, CrossFit's for a lot of athletes, it's just GPT.
Right, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Right. In the same way that powerlifting doesn't really have to be all or nothing if you do it smart. Right. And same with weightlifting. Yeah.
I should mention that, when Krissy and I initially started dating, and she was very receptive to CrossFit, but now it's I don't have any more crow in my home because she's eaten all of it.
There you go.
It's a good one.
There you go.
There you go. Basically,
there you go.
Yeah, but it's I think for me, I look at the relationship that you and Mark and Super particularly, being a facility, being a place where CrossFitters were welcome at a time when there seemed to be a pretty clear division, a schism. It's we're not really going to associate with these people.
These exercisers.
These exercisers.
Whereas now I think it's pretty well known that if you're a power lifter and you live in an area that, excuse me, doesn't have a powerlifting gym at all,
You go to CrossFit.
you can go to a CrossFit gym.
Yeah. And that's actually interesting enough. Yesterday, Jesse Anderson came in here.
He's really strong.
Yeah, kid squats like almost 850 pounds. He came in here and deadlifted 725 yesterday. So they go to a gym called American Iron, which is right by here, which is
Awesome
kind of
gym.
like awesome gym, but it's like bodybuilding kind of powerlifting. Like it's well known for bodybuilding, but they do have power racks and platforms, and a couple of the really good powerlifters in town go there. So him and Stu came over here yesterday, and they were just blown away. They're like, "This is awesome. This is like our favorite type of training environment. This is super cool." And they like sat around and talked about CrossFit with us and cracked some jokes. And I was like, "Next time you guys come back, we'll do some condition like." You know, kind of, and they were just super pumped to be in here when I'm so used to powerlifters being like, oh, CrossFit.
Yeah.
You know, and they were super receptive, and they came in here and they're like, this gym's awesome. So it was super cool.
I think in terms of any kind of change, you get people who start developing their own opinion that's separate from the mainstream opinion, and then it factionalizes, and you get people who are more hardcore against, and then people who are more hardcore for.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of happening in the powerlifting world. There are people like us who are supportive of CrossFit and don't have anything negative to say, and there's maybe a few more loud, hardcore people who are against CrossFit.
Right.
I think those voices have been kind of pushed to the margins and fringes, and generally when that happens, because they're getting, I think they recognize that they're getting further away from what that core can see. They just start screaming louder, and become a lot more boisterous.
Yeah.
But it's really more akin to a death rattle. And I think for us, with this gym, yesterday when Jesse was here, when Stu was here, was for me kind of that first glimpse at what I ultimately hope to happen with the gym is Krissy, who is a competitive powerlifter, is in the corner. Like she gets her first, strings together her first kipping handstand push-ups, and it's like, and Jesse over there is like, he's like, I don't know what would happen to my neck if I did that. And meanwhile, this kid, and that's not a pejorative. He's 21 years old. He's just built like something out of like mythologically. But he's pulling center. But what was phenomenal is that it was an environment where the only thing separating those two was really just was the span of the floor, and it wasn't a philosophical or ideological
It didn't
difference.
seem incongruous.
And then we came back together, and Stu and Jesse talked about like CrossFit's phenomenal. You're getting women, you're getting older individuals who are squatting. I don't have any issue with that.
Yeah. It's been super beneficial to weightlifting and powerlifting.
Right, and that's kind of like what the conversation that came up yesterday is like. I walk into 24-hour fitness because there's a lot of times I still have to train at 24-hour fitness for traveling, and I walk in there and I see women on machines.
And nothing else.
Nothing else, and I'll walk over to a squat rack and I get looks, and it still happens, but it's like it feels so awesome to walk into my gym and see women squatting, deadlifting, benching, and doing those big compound lifts, and even more impressively, Olympic lifting. It's impressive.
I think that's probably the biggest gift that CrossFit's given.
Right.
Is it's let women choose how they want to train.
Right.
Instead of thinking there was only one option.
Right.
Let's transition over to donuts and deadlifts for a few minutes. What caused you to decide to create that brand? From a business standpoint, not really just from an inspiration standpoint.
Yeah, so obviously it was a hashtag I used for like a really long time, almost as a joke. And actually what happened was one of my clients sent me a picture of a t-shirt she got made just of the hashtag that just said hashtag donuts and deadlifts, and she was like, I got this made for you, and I was kind of like, I wouldn't wear that. I thought to myself, like, I'm not gonna, thanks, and then like, I was talking about it to my assistant at the time, and she's like, you should get shirts made, and I said to myself, I'm not gonna be that fitness personality that gets shirts made.
Which is a major way that people monetize fitness.
Well, and here's the thing though, you get, I don't want to say names. You get a lot of like the really famous bodybuilding.com supermodels, like the Ashley Horner girls, or the girls that have, been around for a long time doing that. That works for Ashley Horner. Ashley Horner is in phenomenal shape. She has been around forever. She can make shirts with an outline of her body that say Ashley Horner. and sell them, and that's part of her brand.
Right.
And I've never really been that person. I'm not a fitness model. I'm not, and although people tell me I am a brand, I never really like to think of myself that way. So I said to myself, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this right. And I contacted my buddy, who's a designer, and I said to him, like, do you want to come up with a shirt design, like, for fun? I'm gonna do one run and just kind of like see how it goes. So we got the Star Wars ones made, because everyone knows about my thing for Star Wars. And so originally they said K-Mae Cags on them at the bottom, and we sold out of those in like an hour or two. And I called him back, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this right. I'm gonna create an Instagram for it, a Facebook for it. I'm gonna create like an online store. I'm not just gonna sell it through my personal PayPal. So I did all that, not really knowing what I was doing. He made me the logo, and we just pasted the logo. And what we started out is, we originally didn't even really want to sell anything. We just wanted to be like a lifestyle brand that was like a guide to the best places to donut and deadlift.
Right.
So the Instagram started of us posting pictures of the donut shops we'd go to, because I was traveling to do seminars at the time, and the gyms we'd go to. So it'd be like, this donut shop in this gym, and it started off as like this like mini travel guide thing. And then as the shirts got popular, people would come back and like start commenting like, hey, my friend has this shirt, how do I get one? And I was like, I don't know how to run a fucking apparel business. And my roommate at the time, that was his thing. He sews, so he like makes things. We call him the Keebler Elf. He makes things and like accessories, and he's very fashiony, and would sell them. And he's like, well, I used Big Cartel and Shopify to run my business for years. Like, I'll do all the shipping and receiving and like teach you. And it was just kind of like, we started making the shirts in a couple different colors, and it just totally took off. And for the first like 3 or 4 months, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was like, I can't believe this is a thing. And now we have our products being manufactured specifically through us overseas. Like, now we're legit, you know. So it's been a learning process. I feel like I have not known what I was doing until like a couple months ago.
Really?
Yeah. We started April or May of last year, and all of last year was just a disaster. Running it out of our apartment.
Right.
Fuck. It was just, my apartment had like walls of boxes, like that whole downstairs where you've been there, and it was just a fucking madhouse.
But I always feel like that's the most salient point.
I packed and shipped every order by hand for a long time myself.
It was at times, it was a really disorganized and messy and inefficient process. But it was iterative. It was we learned by doing. And I think what is that, we're a really enterprise and entrepreneurial generation that has a lot of great ideas, but we have this notion that we have to have every conceivable scenario planned out ahead of time before we can actually act on an idea. And if, having been with Krissy for the past year and seeing the extent to which Doughnuts and Deadlifts has grown, if you have it, you too, if you have a great idea, just start. Start somewhere, and understand that it's going to be an imperfect process. But I think what has differentiated Doughnuts and Deadlifts and differentiated Krissy is that whenever we encountered a problem, it was never catastrophic. It was really, every crisis, you use the cliche, was a learning opportunity.
Right.
And from the humble beginnings less than 2 years ago. Year ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's...
Well, because I remember when the first time I was on the PowerCast, we had just gotten sweatshirts made. I remember I brought them, and I was so pumped.
I still have it.
I was like, oh my god, we got sweatshirts. Like, I couldn't even believe it. And I remember Mark like strung it across the front of the table. And I was sitting here next to Mark Bell, freaking out, hearing him talk about my brand, and I was just like, this is crazy. And it had just started. I remember we were brand new. I think that like our first order of shit had just come in the apartment, and Matthew was at home folding it, like texting me, like, what are we gonna do with all this? And
we slept on boxes for several months.
It was crazy, and it's finally legit. We finally have an HQ, and we finally have a setup where you know what I mean, like where everything's housed in inventory properly, and we have, Skins is printing for us,
right,
which is huge.
And so you've got a main designer that you work with. He does everything.
Yeah, he's a really close friend of mine. He's the captain on Instagram. He's a really, really good-looking, hilarious asshole, and everyone just loves to hate him. It's great. And so that's, sorry Kyle if you're listening to this, but
you
it's
will
true.
Be.
It's true.
You're
so
an asshole.
he does like, and he's very clean and basic, which I really like. I'm not about like all the crazy shit designs I see some of these shirts. Like I want something, I don't know, that people are gonna wear.
Well, not feel uncomfortable wearing maybe outside the gym.
Right. Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think.
So
the dead bird tree exploding building skull motif has been done.
Yeah. So he just slowly kind of like started pushing designs my way, and we've tried a lot of designs, and I know what works and what doesn't work. For my company, slogans don't work. Nobody wants slogans. For us, it's simple, clean logos, and I've also found that people want their shirts to say Doughnuts and Deadlifts. No abbreviation of it, no, like
thing.
People want it written on there. So we found those shirts do a lot better. So it's just been a process of any shirt, any design that does really well, we hold on to that design in multiple colors. If a design doesn't do well, we just get the fuck rid of it. We might try a different, if we were like a little ballsy with the color combo, we might try something different, depending, but otherwise we just get rid of it. So now it's turned, we've got the one designer, and so we use the logo for pretty much everything, and then we send the logo off to like all the companies who are printing like our socks now, and our deadlifting straps, and our hats, and our shakers, and that kind of shit. The slogan's taken us far too, the eat, lift, live.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle actually came up with that too. He put it on a shirt. Like I told him, I was like, I just need something simple. Like I need to come up with just a quick slogan. He's like, just do like eat, lift, live. That's what you're all about. So that, yeah.
Simple, very simple,
right.
but straightforward. But people get it.
Right.
People understand it. So you're doing some manufacture offshore? Or?
Yeah, we actually had someone contact us who's from Utah who owns a company that like specializes in all that stuff. So he sent over like a ton of examples. He sent me this crate of shit, like of Contigos and mugs and fucking water bottles and like all that, like just all this shit. They do a lot of stuff for Muscle Farm.
All the non-apparel stuff.
Right. So they do a lot of, they work with Muscle Farm a lot. So he contacted us, and we actually we have a really good relationship with Muscle Farm too. We're working on a little mini collaboration with them. And so when I saw the Muscle Farm stuff, I was like, oh well, this guy's at least legit, because we get so many fucking weirdos emailing us, be like, oh, can I do this and this for you?
I'm a Nigerian prince.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like I'm always very skeptical about who wants to help with the brand. I usually don't respond to those emails, you know, because I either don't need the help or I don't believe them.
Yeah, you get a number of, I mean, even I get a number, and I don't control anything, but I get a number of those emails from different people, different offers of different kinds.
Right. So we got that box of stuff from him, and we're like, oh, this is actually really legit. And he's been really helpful. So like our hats that have been getting made for months now, they're completely being made just for us. Like I picked the mesh, I picked the color, I picked the exact, where the logo's going at.
Yeah.
The inner linings, it's all written on the inside of the underbill of the hat. Like
nice.
It's all being completely 100% designed for Doughnuts and Deadlifts. It's not like we're buying Yupong hats and stamping a logo on it.
Which is pretty much what everybody else does.
Right, and like I'm not going to say names, but you know, I see companies who are selling snapback hats for $35, and I'm like, that Yupong hat cost you $3. I know, you know what I mean? And so we really like, I've been really paying attention to detail. Yeah. You know.
I sell a few hats, and I know what you're talking about in terms of the actual cost versus the embroidery versus the retail price.
Right.
Like I can't sell a super turning hat for $35, but I wouldn't try.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But
so I see a lot of companies doing that, and I luckily, you know, and even still, like I bought 1,000 hats. I had to in order to get them affordable.
Right.
So it's just really cool to see products being manufactured, like our socks and stuff, specifically for us. It's super cool.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you have something substantial.
Yeah.
You've made something substantial.
It's like we have a line that's like in production in a factory. It's not like we're buying other people's stuff and stamping our logo on it.
Yeah, no, I just, in terms of looking at things that are available for production outside of the United States, like Alibaba.com is crazy, because you can have almost anything made.
That's good.
You have almost anything made. But it might not be what you're looking for the first time it comes back because of the language barrier.
Yeah, the language barrier.
You're lucky that you're working with somebody who's here, who's your filter there.
Yeah, he does all of that for us.
Yeah. Yeah, because doing it on your own, you could end up with some weird stuff. But
we ordered those mugs. Everyone wants us to bring the coffee mugs back, and I went through a company like that to get the coffee mugs made, and they were like, right, just send us your logo. And we got them back, and the logo was like the size of a quarter and not standard. And I'm looking at these mugs, and I'm like, we can't fucking sell these mugs. But everyone bought them, and everyone loves them, and people are always posting pictures of their mugs, and we get comments of people like, I want the mug. I'm like, why do you want that fucking mug?
That's crazy.
So yeah, it's like
we're gonna do better.
Yeah. So we're actually waiting on getting Contigos made, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah,
they're not cheap.
They're not cheap.
I'm not gonna make very much money on those. But
I just got one of those the tall thermoses from Caveman, from our friends at Caveman.
Yeah, they just sent us the box.
The big orange one. Yeah, which is awesome. But I went to REI. Spent $4 on the top that you can actually open.
Yeah. Yeah, the Caveman Contigos. Oh yeah, because they lock. Yeah, it depends on the Contigo. But so it was funny because when we were talking to Contigo, they're like, oh yeah, they'll cost just the Contigo alone without the printing will cost you 30 wholesale. I'm like, fuck. Yeah.
No, that's a lot.
Yeah.
30?
I'm like, then how much? Because we were gonna do phone cases because I got a phone case made just for me. And people were seeing the phone case in pictures, asking how to get the phone case. And I'm like, it cost me $35 to make this phone case. And what am I going to do? Pay $35 for my turn around and sell them for
70.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, and I'm not I'm not going to even if it was 40, I'm not going to sell a plastic phone case for $40. No. So I told people, sorry. No. Yeah, I'm not going to be that person.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, get a Star Wars one. Get
the one that looks like a Nintendo.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was Nintendo.
Oh, but the popularity of the skins.
Oh, the skins. Yeah.
I know that we, had a lot of discussions about whether or not that the skins themselves that I would be prohibitively expensive, and it was a welcome surprise to see how quickly they sold. That there wasn't any, any negative comments from people who, like, oh, I can't believe you would sell them at these prices, because they're expensive wholesale.
Right.
The margins aren't great on my skin, but what's great about Doughnuts and Deadlifts is that it's a brand now that has enough of a following. Demographic is receptive to these higher price ticket items, which are of great quality, because Krissy's insistence on quality is, there's a precedent's been established. We're not in the business of selling cheap things. But at least we know that there's people, it's at least more palatable. So hopefully as we continue to grow, we'll be able to justify or have a market for things like phone cases that aren't just cheaply made plastic cases.
Right.
But that's what makes it really exciting. And the skins was kind of the first foray into that territory where we're selling.
I was terrified.
I
was like, oh my god, because they sell for anywhere from $99 to $120.
Right.
And so ours are considered a specialty item. So I remember talking to Anthony at Scans, and he's like, yeah, since you're Doughnuts and Deadlifts, it's going to be a really sought after product. You could sell them for $120. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no one's going to buy $120 skins brands from me. So we did 105 on the Skins website, again, depending on the pattern or the type, anywhere from 99 to 120, and we did 105, and because a lot of our athletes have athlete discounts,
right?
So a lot of people use them, so we expected people to use that to get $15 off, and I was like, great, 90. And they were not cheap for me to purchase, and I had to purchase a lot, so it was a really
big gamble,
huge investment, and I was terrified, and I was like, I'm so afraid to put these online for $105. Like I don't, but luckily the following that my brand has understands that Skins are the best quality compression pants you can get. And people were so pumped to buy them. Like, people could not wait, and we sold out. And then we got another round, and now we're sold out again. I had to order more today, and people understand that they're getting a really high-end compression legging, and anybody that cares about their training, the people who are buying them are athletes, which is super cool to know too. It's like, I can't imagine too many people willing to spend $105 for fashion, for a pair of black spandex pants with the logo on it. Like, and it just shows me that people who are taking their training seriously are purchasing my product, which feels amazing to me.
You mentioned sponsored athletes.
Yeah.
I know that we talked a little bit on the podcast about the fact that you do it a little bit differently. Is you're actually
I pay them.
You're paying.
Right.
You're paying.
And as far as I know, I'm one of the few companies that does. So my athletes, I get hundreds of emails a month asking if people could be sponsored.
Of course you do.
I only sponsor athletes. I sponsor people who are competitive at least 4 times a year, at least, and all my athletes are considered elite by whether it's their total or whatever whatever they do. Everybody's kind of been handpicked, and I actually pay them. So I pay them every time their discount code gets used. I don't give them a percentage of their sales. We go by how many times their code's getting used. And then I pay them, I pay all their entry fees for them to compete.
Right.
I pay for their airfare to fly to go compete.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I pay them if they podium for second or third, anywhere from $100 to $500. So if they're on a podium in front of a group of people wearing a Doughnuts and Deadlift shirt and a hat when they podium and they get,
And she brought all the girls to New York City for a fun girls retreat with a great photo shoot. So guys retreat.
It's here in this room.
Right? Yeah.
Guys retreat isn't going to be nearly as we're probably just going to throw together bunk beds.
I'm not. So many brands out there use people to get their billboards.
Marketing mules.
Yeah, and it's like here. And you get all these companies that are like, they'll just send you, I'm not going to say names again, but there's companies who've done it to my athletes. Send them a box of free shit. They're like, oh, post stuff for us.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you are not posting that. Those people are using you for your Instagram following. Like, do you really care about that box of clothes?
Yeah.
And
the trick about Instagram or any of the social media, it's not, even though you have a great following, that's not entirely what sells your product.
Right.
It's that you have other people with a reasonable following who earnestly post your stuff.
Right.
Who feel a connection to it.
Right.
And that authenticity is what.
And another thing too is I don't pay them to post. There's companies who pay people. I have friends who have 1 million Instagram followers who they make money by getting paid thousands of dollars for Instagram posts for supplement companies or whoever. That's their job.
And they're probably working directly with those companies. Whereas at some point in the past, reaching that kind of audience, you would have needed to go through an agency or something like that.
So I never pay my athletes to post. It's on them. They don't make any money off of how many posts they make. They make money off of how well their code does, and they make money for performance as an athlete. And that's why I get these people emailing me with huge Instagram following. The other day, this chick with 70,000 Instagram followers emailed. She's like, I love your product, and I think that my followers would really like it. If you want to send me some stuff, I'll post for you. Like, she'd be doing us a favor.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't need your charity post, lady. And I said, here's a coupon code. You can buy stuff like everybody else does.
Right.
And it's one of those things where like my athletes work so fucking hard and they bust their ass and they're all phenomenal, really well-respected athletes. Why the fuck would I send somebody a free box of clothes for an Instagram shout-out? It's not gonna happen. There's no way.
So please
stop.
If anything, it's gonna uptick.
It's getting worse and worse, and it's people who and I respect people who email me and who legit are athletes trying really hard, and like there's been a few people who I've had to turn away who it's generally made me sad. I'm like, I really want you to be on my team, but we're full. I've got 10 athletes right now, and that's keeping my hands full. And so that's the hard part. But it's just frustrating because these people see who my athletes are, and it's these people who think they're entitled to something. And I'm like, look at how hard the people who are signed with me work, and you're really gonna think that you deserve free clothes for posting 100 selfies a day with your tits out. Sorry.
Well, moreover, it's not. I will agree, kind of, that all the athletes that don't have sponsored are great athletes.
Yeah.
All of them, more or less, to some extent, personally. But it's not really the deciding factor was not the extent of their following. They have to be active competitors, but it wasn't a prerequisite that you had to be a champion or a world record holder and something. It was really what it boils down to was authenticity.
Right.
Yeah. Was this someone who? Because we get a lot of people like, oh, I love Doughnuts.
Never bought anything.
I
love your brand. I've never bought anything. You search Instagram. They've never posted anything about any pastry related item. Right. Whereas everyone that who's sponsored has been unabashedly as someone who embodies the slogan, eat, live, live. There's someone who has balanced their training with,
indulging, occasionally and trying to live a more balanced life. And those are the people that we sought out. And if you're working hard, someone will eventually take notice. But just throwing an unsolicited, like a solicited email is the quickest way to get to the bottom of the discarded trash bin.
The other thing is every athlete we have I've come across them on Instagram because they bought our stuff, and I saw the hashtag, and like that's how I found April, and that's how I found Desiree, and like I started finding these people because they had bought our stuff, they were about the life, and I searched through the hashtags and I look at who posts pictures in our gear, I look at who truly supports the brand, and I put my feelers out of who I want to be involved, and that's how I found most of these people. Like the first time I ever met Tony Montgomery. Nicest person ever. Like, it just walked up to me. He has Donuts and Deadlift stuff, and he talks about listening to me on the Powercast, and I was like, wow, you were with me that day with Sam.
Yeah, didn't mention at all that he was looking for a
Nothing.
sponsor.
No mention, and was just super genuine and nice, and he had supported the brand. And I remember like telling Drew, I was like, I think I want to ask Tony to be one of my sponsored athletes, and she was like, you shouldn't. I was all like nervous to ask him, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm really nervous, he's so strong. And then I asked him, and he was so excited, and I'm like, it's like the people who deserve it are the people who aren't expecting it.
Right, and I think it helps to have people who don't go every direction the wind blows too.
Right.
And people who are gonna stick with you, and they're not looking for 6, 7, 10 different sponsors at one time.
Right. That's another thing is you see people who it's funny you mentioned that. There's people who on Instagram will post a picture of them lifting and they'll tag like 20 companies.
Right, in the hopes
and it's like caffeine and kilos, donuts and
catch.
deadlifts, this and that, and I'm like, yeah.
Just trying to catch something.
Thirsty.
Yeah,
thirsty.
They thirsty.
Right.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't be if they knew just how glamorous Instagram fame was?
Right.
I mean,
everybody who's super.
Once you
Instagram
reach
famous,
100,000 followers, you
the
get
world changes.
The streets change to
Gold.
paved gold,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's remarkable.
Your toilet is gold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You don't need to poop anymore.
You don't need to poop anymore. You become
you
so
have no
efficient
need for a butthole.
that you don't.
Need for a butthole. Yeah.
Nothing goes to waste.
Yeah.
If only they knew that
Using all the pig.
Yeah.
it takes that much more work.
It's exhausting.
And
So social media, I really sometimes I think it's great, and sometimes I just hate it.
My life goal is to delete all of it. That's when I
that'd
know
be
I've
nice.
made it. I will know I have made it when I no longer need social media to help.
Well, if I
my
ever win the
businesses.
lottery, I'm deleting all
Right,
my social media.
So that's funny. I understand having it at this point in my life. My content has changed substantially. I used to be the selfies and the clean meal and all that. And I'm kind of like, whatever, fuck it now.
Right.
I like posting stuff about other people. I know that my followers don't like that, but I do. I post people who inspire me. I post things that help me. I like posting my lifts, like stuff like that. But my goal is to just not have it anymore. The day I don't need it. What?
favorite caption ever. I'm happy for you and all, but I liked your profile a lot better when I
yeah.
posted pictures
Dude.
of your ass and tits.
Yeah, a lot of people like
All
single Krissy more than screwed up Krissy.
Sorry, everybody.
I love you.
Hello, Ciento.
On that note, thank you guys very much.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
We'll just throw this in as a bonus.
Yeah.
Bonus
Bonus.
footage.
Freebies.